How's it going, Star Seekers? My name's Luke and welcome back to the channel, where today we're going to be taking a look at a game called Nightbook. Developed and published by Wales Interactive in conjunction with Goodgate Media, Nightbook is a live-action interactive movie in which you get to direct the storyline through your actions and dialogue choices. The game follows the story of Loralyn, an interpreter who gets herself mixed up in some bad business involving an ancient book and the summoning of a demon, and your decisions determine her actions and ultimately her fate and the ending of the game. Now, if you played any of Wales Interactive's other FMV games such as Late Shift, The Complex or 5 Dates, then you'll likely know what to expect with this one. But for those who haven't and are wondering whether it's worth your money, this review should help answer that question. Now, as always, if you enjoyed this review, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to be notified of future reviews, and let's get into it. So Nightbook is in fact the 6th title to be published by Wales Interactive as part of their ongoing FMV game collection. It's available for £9.99 on the UK eShop and $12.99 on the US eShop. And before we get into it, I will warn you that this review will contain some minor spoilers, but I will try and keep things as brief as I can and avoid going in depth about the storyline. So to kick things off with an interesting fact, Nightbook was filmed entirely remotely during lockdown, and it's an occult thriller about a young woman called Loralyn who works the night shift remotely from her home. Now, being fluent in both French and English, Loralyn is applying for a job as an interpreter, and our story picks up just before she undergoes an assessment for the position. But with her husband working far away and a mentally ill father currently occupying one of her spare rooms, the odds are already stacked against Loralyn, and that's even before we get into any of this demon's business. Now, if you've ever read one of those choose your own adventure books or played games such as The Walking Dead, Until Dawn or Life is Strange, Nightbook operates in the same way, only instead of controlling the characters directly, gameplay is presented as a series of live action scenes with the actors responding to your decisions. At certain points throughout the game, you'll be prompted to select one of two options, and these can either be dialogue options with which to respond to the different characters with, or a choice of actions which Loralyn will then perform. Now, the game has two distinct storylines for you to go down based on the choices you make, and with these you'll find yourself speaking to two very different sets of people. This adds a little more variety to the game and makes subsequent playthroughs less repetitive, but inevitably, both storylines result in the discovery of an ancient book and the accidental summoning of a demon which then targets Loralyn and her family. Throughout the game, you'll encounter a number of different characters, including Loralyn's husband, her father, and various clients via video calls, and the way in which you interact with them determines both theirs and Loralyn's fates, and ultimately the ending you receive for your playthrough. Now, depending on whether you choose to skip the scenes that you've already watched, each playthrough of Nightbook takes between 30 minutes and an hour, and there are a total of 15 different endings to the game. One thing that I thought was great about this short playtime though is that a playthrough can be consumed in one sitting, and there's very little required from the player in terms of interaction. This means it's perfect for when you're feeling a little lazy and just want to enjoy a narrative experience with very little effort. Now, I personally have always been a fan of choose your own adventure type games, so for me Nightbook offered an enjoyable gameplay experience, but it is a rather niche genre which will likely not be to everybody's taste. The overall quality of acting in the game is pretty good, and I felt the characters were believable, particularly Loralyn and the two businessmen she speaks to, and the cast features a couple of reasonably well-known stars, including Julie Drey who plays Loralyn, and Colin Salmon who has featured in movies such as Resident Evil, London Has Fallen, and a couple of episodes of Doctor Who. Now, so far as the narrative goes, I thought it was well written and I liked the various plot twists incorporated into it, though I did find it to be a little predictable at times, and it did feature a few cliches of the genre. While the story does fall primarily into the thriller category, there are elements of horror to the game, but thankfully it doesn't rely on cheap jump scares and the tension's built steadily towards its eventual climax at the end of the game. Now I've given you a brief overview of the storyline and summed up what constitutes as gameplay in Nightbook, but due to this being more of an interactive movie than an actual game, it's very hard for me to recommend it based on gameplay or performance. The quality of the footage looks great and I've nothing to criticise about this either, and so the decision on whether or not to buy Nightbook is really going to be down to whether or not you enjoy movies or the choose your own adventure style games that I've previously mentioned. Now so far as replayability goes, yes there are 15 endings to the game, but after a couple of playthroughs you're likely to have viewed the majority of the scenes the game has to offer, so realistically you're likely going to be skipping most of them in subsequent playthroughs if you want to see all 15 endings. On the whole though, I enjoyed the game. I played through it twice and felt another couple of playthroughs would have been enough for me, and while I would consider its price tag to be a little high for a movie of this length, considering the fact you've got multiple routes through the game, it's still pretty reasonable and it is in line with the pricing of other games in the collection. Now when it comes to my own personal rating of the game, I'm going to be giving Nightbook 3 out of 5 stars. If you've enjoyed Wales Interactive's previous FMV titles, then Nightbook will no doubt prove to be a great addition to your collection, but for those who have watched this review and are still left unsure about the game, I recommend grabbing any of the titles on sale before committing to buying one at full price. And so that just about does it for this review of Nightbook on the Nintendo Switch. Make sure to hit that like button if it helped you out. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the game and whether you've enjoyed any of the other FMV titles that I've mentioned, and if you've not already done so and enjoy this type of content, then please consider subscribing to the channel. For now though, I just want to thank you all once again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.